Welcome to the AI for Sales podcast, sponsored by Nooks.ai and BDR.ai, where technology meets tenacity and the future of sales is happening right now. Hosted by best-selling author, speaker, and sales innovator Chad Burmeister, this show is your gateway to 5x, even 10x your pipeline and performance. We are here to show you how artificial intelligence and human creativity come together to generate more opportunities faster than ever before. Because in sales, time kills deals. But in AI for sales, AI kills time. Get ready to learn, level up, and lead the AI for sales revolution. This is the AI for Sales podcast. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to another AI for Sales podcast. I am Chad Burmeister, your host, and today I am with Tamara Jackson, and I'm so excited. I think we're kindred spirits because we've been talking for 20 minutes before we even hit the record button, and I think that's a record. So I checked, and we have time today to talk even longer. I wanted to make sure to introduce Tamara because she's a strategic partner and marketing strategist who helps purpose-driven brands turn ghosted leads and cold follow-ups into paying clients. And I'm sure we all have some of those ghosted leads. With experience spanning sales, training, underwriting, entrepreneurship, digital strategy, and as an early adopter of AI, she brings both discernment and data to the table. Through her work with Lead Reviver, Tamara helps founders recover lost revenue, clarify their positioning, and build campaigns that actually close. She doesn't chase vanity metrics. She builds pipelines that pay. Tamara, welcome to the show.
Chad, thank you so much for having me. Thanks for the conversation before we officially hit record. I do feel like we're twins right now with all of the conversations that we've had. So it'll be fun to have this conversation with you about AI and sales and hopefully share something that will be a blessing to those that are watching and listening to us today.
100%. I love the term lead reviver because we used to call something similar when I was head of sales at Connect and Sell, we would call these dormant leads, and we even called it the pile of unmatched socks, right? They're just kind of sitting there in a pile, and I was just doing my unmatched socks after my Vegas trip, and I thought of that this morning, in fact. So,
yeah, it's a
and they're
great
just sitting there, and that's what you do. You help people match their unmatched socks.
That's right. That's right.
So let's talk about AI. I'd like to start from the vantage point of the customer because a lot of us think about how do we optimize revenue and how do we bring in more money for ourselves, and all that's cool. But I like to think of it in terms of the value to the customer. Can you talk to us a little bit about, what's beneficial to the person on the other side of the equation?
Yeah, I feel like the list is probably longer than most people think, Chad. So one of the things that comes to mind first is that the customer can have the conversation at a time that best works for them. So when we think about a traditional sales experience, then we have to make sure that the calendars kind of sync up, right? It's when the salesperson is available, when the customer is available. And I don't know about you, but sometimes even as a business owner, it is hard to figure out what date and time I'm going to connect with someone. The beauty of AI is that conversation can happen anytime, regardless of time zone. AI can be Johnny on the spot to provide the service that the customer wants in the time frame that they want it. The way that we use Lead Reviver also allows it to be personal. So even though I know a lot of people feel like, well, if you're using automation, if you're using AI, then it's not going to sound like a typical interaction. But in my experience, AI can get pretty close to communicating like a human if it's trained in such a way that it really prioritizes the relationship versus the transaction. And unfortunately, I've had experiences where conversations with humans feel really transactional. So I think the benefit to the customer, the second benefit to the customer is that it is a personal experience. It's customized to them and it's consistent. One of the things about human beings, Chad, is we have good days and we have bad days. one of the things that I really appreciate about AI is it's consistent. It shows up the same way every single time, which creates if it's trained properly, you get that Chick-fil-A experience every time instead of, I won't name any names, but sometimes you go to other fast food restaurants and depending upon the day, depending upon the person, depending upon how they woke up that morning, you get a different experience.
Mm.
So truly believe that AI can be used for good. It can create better experiences for the client as well as for the business leader. So that's my short answer to that question.
I love that answer. And I will use a name, the Sphere in Vegas. I had an O for 4 experience.
Oh
From the
no.
time I walked out of the Uber, rude at the front of the line, rude at the next spot. I walk up and they're like, sir, you need to remove your glasses. Okay, how am I to know? I'm going through security and I have the readers that are on hanging here and I have my sunglasses on. And I forgot I had my sunglasses on. Apologies, please forgive me. I forgot that I'm wearing my sunglasses, right? And so that rings true to me because you're right. Maybe they're just having a bad day that day. And you're right. AI never has a bad day. You can train it to be a certain way and behave in a certain way. So that's a really interesting perspective that you share there. So I like it a lot. Um, Talk to me about an example of a customer that you've deployed AI with on Lead Reviver. It sounds like from your introduction, there's a lot of different companies that you've worked with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe there's an example you could share.
Yeah. I was thinking about this because you're right. We have the pleasure of working with people in many different industries, from SaaS to healthcare to coaches and consultants to media companies. And that's one of the things that I love about what we do is the solution can benefit so many different people. But I wanted to share an example with our viewing and listening audience today that may be a little different than what we would expect. So I think when you ask me that question, Chad, people are expecting, hey, she's going to talk about how, it increased sales or it reduced speed to lead. And all of those things are absolutely true. But I had a conversation with one of our clients a couple of weeks ago. This is a SaaS solution in the financial services space. And they couldn't wait to tell us how excited they were because something had happened that had never happened before. So their sweet spot are smaller credit unions. So typically they're talking to financial services that are in that 10 to $50 million range. Well, because of the solutions that we put in place, and in this instance, it was a combination of nurture content and leveraging AI for sales. They had someone book a call that was running $1 billion credit union. So what happened here, because of the power of this system, that this Lead Reviver that we put in place for them, is that they literally moved up the food chain. So they were excited because now we're having conversations with a whole different league of people. Now, of course, when we're talking B2B sales, it's longer sales cycles, it's more stakeholders involved, all of that. But if that deal closes, that one deal is going to make up for 10 other deals.
Hmm.
So I think that is the power, something that many people probably don't think about, is when you get sharper with your messaging, when you have this AI tool that is able to work 24/7, when you can train it to speak your brand voice and to be an extension of you, it can literally put you in rooms that you haven't been in before. And I think that's exciting news, right? If you can think about what that could potentially do to your bottom line. But not only that, Chad, what does it do to your confidence to now realize, hey, I was here and yeah, I had this vision for my business that I would get here in 5 years or 10 years. But now you're having the conversation that you thought you would have 10 years from now today. And that is the power of AI when it's used responsibly and when it reflects your voice.
Mm. Yeah, that is impressive. That that you can move up market so quickly and significantly to a company that size. That's amazing.
Yeah.
What about the misconceptions about AI as you deploy it out there?
Tons. There's tons. I wanted, since this is a sales podcast, I want to talk about specifically the salesperson. And what's been interesting to me, Chad, is the same conversation is coming up in this space as came up when I worked in corporate years ago and I was running sales teams, or as I moved up to running sales performance for 5 call centers. Whenever something new was introduced into the sales process, the first question that would come up is, am I going to lose my job? Are you going to cut my hours? And the misconception now in this space with AI is now AI is going to replace me. And while we all have seen the headlines, and there certainly is conversation around whether or not things will look different, and I think the answer is yes, things will look different 6 months from now, certainly a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But I think it's important that we don't look at AI as a replacement. I truly believe it makes us more efficient. It allows us to get more done in less time. And now that salesperson gets an opportunity to think about, what else can I add to the equation? What new skills can I learn? How can I, just like the example that I just shared, Chad, how can I move up? I remember working with so many salespeople that kind of, in a way, kind of allow themselves to get stuck in that sales role, even though they had aspirations for other things, because they thought, well, this is all I can do. But I think this revolution that we're going through is going to challenge all of us, including me, including you, Chad, to constantly be upping our game. There is no, things will be the same 6 months from now. That world is over. So we're all going to grow, we're all going to develop. And I think that's a positive thing. And then at the same time, for the person who's listening to me and says, but I really love sales, I always want to do sales, I think the misconception is that we won't still need great salespeople. I think we always will, because there will always be unique situations. There will always be complexities that is beyond the scope of AI. And even though it's going to allow us to be more efficient, our model today still says, hey, once we've gotten the conversation started, once we've pre-qualified your prospect, now let's hook them up with a salesperson. So I think AI can actually be a solution rather than a challenge, because now we are able to get you more qualified leads, which I remember I used to hear all the time back in the call center. These leads are junk. These leads are horrible. Well, actually, AI can be a part of the solution to make sure that the people that you talk to are ready to move forward. So there's, the list can go on and on with misconceptions, Chad, but those are a few that come to mind.
That's good. Artificial intelligence for sales is kind of what I've been, the moniker, if you will. We crossed out the word AI for sales and artificial, and we made it augmented intelligence, because originally the podcast 5 years ago, artificial. And I was like, I don't like the word artificial. That like stands for fake. Augmented sounds a little more what we're moving into is augmented intelligence. And you remember the guy, Marcus Lemonis, The Prophet is the TV show that he used to do?
Yes, I love The Prophet. Yes.
So he's got a new show called The Fixer. And so my wife and I watched a show, The Fixer, the other night, and he had this is a perfect example. It was this couple that was on The Fixer. And there was this guy who had like a little bun of a haircut. It was pretty funny. And they had this gym concept where a trampoline business, and they had one that was highly profitable that had like 3 different areas, a trampoline portion, and then other areas, I don't know, workout and other. It was like three in one, and they had multiple trainers, and then they had one that was just trampolines. The trampoline one was losing $5,000 a month, and the other one was making all the money. So, but the one was dragging it down. It was a 10-year lease, losing $60,000 a year. So Lemonis comes in. He's like, you're going to burn $500,000 in 10 years. Like, no, it's not going to happen. And yet the guy was putting away 150 grand a year. He was saving because of the other one. So it was like, and then what was the guy doing? His main job, his wife was really smart too, by the way. And she was doing a lot of the really heavy lift, and he was like, well, I wash the towels. I open the doors when people come in the morning. And he was doing like the menial tasks. And it was like, how do you move up, in this relationship, in this business? And but it reminded me of like where AI needs to take on a lot of these menial tasks, the towel stuff. Like, come on, you can't do that. Like, move up.
We don't need to be doing
And
that.
so
We
many
don't
of
need to
us
be doing
take
that.
on the towel cleaning tasks of our day-to-day jobs. That's the job of the AI people. Just because you like to send your emails and open and read them doesn't mean that that's adding any value. Like, let's stop, push and send, and do the data pulls. And like, that's the stuff you got to outsource to a bot.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh,
Yeah.
and that is huge, Chad. I'm glad that you mentioned that. The ability of AI to analyze data in record speed just constantly blows me away. This is stuff that it would have taken me weeks to do. You can literally get it back in seconds. Now, I will say, just like we talked about just a minute ago, still need a human to review it. Sometimes there can be little hiccups, mistakes, but still, hands down, I would take this world where I can get really amazing analysis. Here are the observations, here are the trends, here are the recommendations, the next steps. Like, man, it would have taken, like I said, days, weeks in some instances. It would have taken so many people to be involved in that. It is amazing what AI can do from an analysis standpoint. I'm a big believer in leveraging data and discernment to make decisions. Data is sometimes really hard to get your mind around and really understand what it's telling you. And there's so many benefits to leveraging AI for that. So thank
Let
you
the
for bringing
data
that up.
be the data, I learned about Gen AI about 7 years ago. And I remember the person telling me, yeah, it's called GPT 2.5. And I was like, I thought he kept saying RG3, RG3. And I was like, you mean like the quarterback? And I literally thought that's how I would remember it. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, RG3. I think, and I was like, huh. And so then every time I meet with this kid, Will, I was like, and he was probably 23, 24, right out of college. Really smart guy, funded by Salesforce Ventures. And I was like, what is it again? GP something? And he was like, yeah, now it's GPT 2.6. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay, where is it? And I never actually logged in or saw it or
Oh,
anything.
wow.
I just knew what kind of emails it would write. And so I remember posting, and I was like, I posted and I said, hey, my email bot can write 100 emails in an hour better than your top 10 sellers could write in a day.
Yep.
And I go, I'll challenge you. And people in the industry that I've known for a decade were like, this is terrible. How dare you say a computer can compete in this world? You're going to have to pay taxes on this $70,000 person that we're paying. You're going to have to start paying taxes on a computer. And I'm like, man, that's like an Excel spreadsheet. Like, imagine saying you're going to have to pay taxes on an Excel spreadsheet. I'm like, that's not
Crazy.
how it works. And now here we are with
Now
GPT
here,
instead of GPT
now here
2.5.
we are.
Oh my
But it
goodness.
just speaks to, like we were talking about a little bit before we officially hit record, some of the fears around all of this. And I get where people are coming from. A lot of that is driven by fear. But the good news, even though we haven't been through this exact thing before, there's always been disruption. If you think about going from radio to TV, that was disruption, right? Going from working in the factories to industrial, there's been disruption many times throughout our existence, and there's always a lot of resistance. There's always a lot of fear, but the good news is eventually things do normalize, and we accept the new world. And yes, that does mean that some things are going to change, but change isn't always bad. And yeah, there are going to be some things that maybe we don't love, but we will always adjust.
Yeah.
I am a believer in human resilience. We always find a way to rise to the occasion, and I believe that we'll do that with this as well.
I think some of the coolest thing that can come out of this, there's a book called Digital Labor that was written in 2019. And it was if it was written yesterday, because it's all coming true, and it's moving towards a world of basically net zero costs. And so if you think of, why is a mall not open past 8 o'clock or even 6 o'clock on weekends, or whatever? Maybe I've got it reversed, but I don't go to malls as much as some other people may. But why isn't it open 24/7? Well, because people cost money. Well,
Right.
bots don't cost much extra because it's just an electricity fee, and it's really not much money in the middle of the night.
Right.
So it'll all change. It'll be basically net zero additional costs. So what does that mean for everything? If you could have basically net zero costs, if there's good people in the world, which I believe there's more good people than we think. There's
Yes.
probably a lot more good people out
100%.
there than we think there are.
Yes.
It's like maybe half even. Even if it's only 40%, we're probably still in a better place. But
Yes.
if there's half good people, or even 40%, and it's net zero cost to do good things, like you don't have to have a car now. You can just send an Uber because it's a net zero cost.
That's right.
So because there's no cost to drive. So now if someone can get to work and work 2 jobs because now they don't have to pay for a train to go across town, just think of the freedom that can happen with all of this. So I really do believe the upward mobility, and that could explain why there is fear, because maybe bad people want there to be fear in the system of AI. If you really think about it, maybe the 50% that don't want AI to get out are actually maybe the cause of fear. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it as we talk out loud. Yeah.
That's a really good point. One other thing that I thought about as you were sharing that, Chat, is something that I have thought about as well. Is like, to your point with freedom. Now that we don't have to spend as much time on menial tasks, now that we can be more efficient in what we're doing, what does that free up our time to do? Um, I know, just like you have shared, there are a lot of good people out in the world. I can remember a time in my life where I was so busy, I wanted to volunteer. I wanted to do this and that at church. I wanted to go support this project, but I was so stretched. I didn't have the time. And even if I did have the time, I just didn't have the mental, the extra mental space to add something like that in. One of the things that I'm believing and hoping that this is going to do is this going to allow us to be more generous. It's going to allow us to be more present with our family, because we don't have to spend every waking hour on the spreadsheet or on the email or all of those things. And those are things that I don't hear talked about enough. But if we get this right, and like you and I talked about a little bit earlier, if those of us that see the value in it and know it can be used for good, if we continue to lead the charge, there can be so many amazing things that come out of this new world where we have that capacity to do the things that we've always wanted to do.
Every quarter, your pipeline goals go up. But when SDR teams are bogged down by prospecting, dialing, and coaching busy work, they struggle to hit their goals. That's where Nooks comes in. Nooks helps you double and even triple the pipeline you generate. Nooks is the AI sales assistant platform that automates account research, list building, and getting more great prospect conversations, so you can focus on the human side of selling. Companies like Seismic, Modern Health, and Greenhouse use Nooks to radically increase outbound pipeline. See how you can build more pipeline today by visiting nooks.ai.
Yeah, it's almost like capitalism with a twist. We have to remember because there's this scare of this bad C word called that I won't even say out loud. And so it's capitalism with the twist. We've got to keep because digital labor says, okay, there's a 1-for-1 ratio. Then there's in this digital labor book, it says, okay, the next level is scripts. So let's say you run scripts, and that might get you 2 to 3x over regular labor. Then you go to orchestration and get you 5 to 10x multiple over labor. Then you go to precognitive, 10, 15x, and then you go full cognitive, and it's a 35x. So if it's pure capitalism, and you've got this small group of people that control pure capitalism, they're like, great, I'm taking all 35x and I'm gonna put it in my piggy bank.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, slow your roll. It's gotta be, listen, you can keep 8 of those X's, and then the other 32, we're going to figure out what we're going to, or whatever it is, 28. By the time
Don't
we're in
do
that
math,
number
Chad.
of multiples, there's a lot of leftovers. So
That's
let's
right.
make sure that this pie is carved up correctly, because that's just a lot of advances. I remember when Bill Clinton spoke as at Salesforce.com event one time, 20 years, 15 years ago. And he said, when I was president, he said, we had like a 5% efficiency gain across the nation in those years. And he said the stock market boomed and everyone was happy. And I was like, think about what happens when we have 35x. Like, just wait a second. And so when Trump keeps talking about this golden age and everything, I'm like, I think that's just right place, right time, because we're going to be in an interesting time
Absolutely.
as AI really turns the corner on leverage. So whoever's riding this
Absolutely.
rocket ship,
100%.
man, we better do it right at the top. So I know we're going a little off tangent, but this is
100%.
fun. We're in a fun world here. What are you seeing for
Yeah,
AI?
we're
Because
having
you've
fun.
been in this space for a little bit. What are you seeing in terms of other kinds of technologies that are coming out? What's exciting for you?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I am looking forward to, Chad, is it continuing to evolve. So in our work, we're primarily using email and SMS. And right now, a lot of that work is still kind of siloed. So we can leverage AI to get a lot of efficiency, but it kind of operates on one track. So the email is on one track, the SMS is on another track. Another thing that we see is it doesn't have a good memory, if you will. So as more time passes, it kind of forgets what you've taught it. So continuous training and things like that. And if a customer says something, a month ago or 2 months ago, the AI's ability to retain that information when they respond, because you know how people are. Sometimes it just falls off the radar. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult because it's not a very recent conversation. But because things are evolving so quickly, I envision that gap is going to close pretty quick. We're going to see AI's ability to retain information, to not have to train it as often. And my hope is that it will be able to kind of operate as one brain. So even though it's operating in many different channels, it will be seamless and be able to be a great experience for the customer, even though you might have sent them an email and they're responding to a text message. Like that, I just think we're not that far away because things are moving so quickly, almost to the point where you kind of have whiplash. But I think it's going to be good because ultimately, as you have pointed out, Chad, the customer is going to win. And the reality that many of us don't want to face is sometimes it's us. Sometimes it's us as business owners that are standing in the way of the best customer experience. It's the frontline employee, whether it's customer service or sales. Sometimes it's us. And the beauty is that AI is going to be able to stand in the gap and make sure that someone is always there for the customer. And then for those more complex situations, then a human can step in and carry that
Yeah.
conversation forward.
And you're validating exactly what my peer told me this morning. He was hoping GPT-5 that came out just very recently was going to solve this gap.
No,
And it just caused the recency problem of remembering,
no,
what was
still
said.
not good at that yet.
Still not
I
quite
wish,
there.
but I don't think we're that far. I think the downside of this GPT-5 release is I think there was a lot of hype, and the consensus that I'm hearing, and this is absolutely what you don't want to happen, is people feel like it kind of fell short of expectations.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I don't want that. I do want to say that for the benefit of those that are watching and listening. So know that you're not alone. I'm in many circles, and that's kind of the sentiment across the board. But I don't want us to take that to mean, well, this is it. It's slowing down. Maybe it's not going to be as great as people have said. I think this was probably a one off, but I think
yeah.
there is still going to be the continual evolution. I mean, we are prioritizing here in the United States being number one in AI. Like we're all hands on deck on this. There's no way that this is going to fall off the radar. I think we just need more time.
Yeah, I remember sitting in the backyard in the late 90s with a friend of mine in Northern or Southern California saying, how do we make money off the internet? When the internet was becoming a thing. And I
Wow.
ended up writing an MBA paper on it. And there's about 25 logos on the front of this paper. And Cisco Systems was on there.
Mm.
I compared Fortune 500 to tech. And then I ended up working for WebEx. Which got acquired by Cisco. Both those logos were in the 25 that were on my paper. Unbeknownst to me that I would ever work for those companies,
How cool is that?
and now I work for Informatica, which is being acquired by Salesforce.com. And I've gone through this iteration. And I really believe AI is an exponential, not a linear kind of a growth. And I'm looking at that 35x growth factor that I talked about, which to me is going to also multiply people's wealth by a
100%.
factor 8x, 10x, 35x.
100%.
People like my son who just graduated from college a couple of years ago and getting his feet wet in the AI space. And what I'm most excited about for everyone in the world is that it has the chance to be an equalizer. And so it's not about IQ anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's about EQ and just being a good person.
Yeah.
Because now you have access to a library that everyone can get if you just have a phone.
Yeah.
So how do we get more phones to more people? Is kind of like
Yeah.
that's.
You're absolutely right. And I'm glad that you're bringing this up because the reality of our current situation is there is not equal opportunity, right? Like, depending upon where you're born, not just where in the world, but the family that you're born into, the educational system that you go through. I'm going to be delicate here, but it is not, everybody doesn't have the same experience. And to your point, now there is something that can help level the playing field so that everyone has an opportunity. I do think what you have mentioned is really important, though. We've got to make sure that everyone has a phone. We've got to make sure that everyone has access to the internet. It still blows my mind that there are people right now that do not have access to the internet. We've got to make sure that that happens. And I think the other piece is one of the challenges of today is it takes a lot of self motivation around AI. It's not yet mainstream enough that all school systems are teaching AI, that all colleges are teaching AI. So it's still more so on the individual to recognize, hey, this is important. I need to prioritize this. I need to learn it. And what I'd love to see is more widespread push on ensuring that the education happens for everyone. Because to your point, Chad, when everybody has a phone, when everyone has internet and everyone knows how to use AI, it is game over. People that have wanted to start businesses will be able to start them. People that have wanted to, be able to write books and do all of these amazing things that they felt like they didn't quite have all the tools that they needed, or maybe they didn't feel like they had the IQ. Now all of that is possible, but we need those three things. Everyone has to have a phone, everyone has to have internet connection, and everyone has to know how to use it.
Well, I go back to the Bob Marley Hope Road experience because if a Rastafarian person can teach me how to Rasta,
Yeah.
then it's kind of incumbent upon me and you to
Mhm.
teach a Rastafarian how to AI.
Yes.
And it maybe think of it. I would have thought, man, I don't know if I can do all that. And when they're looking me across the eye going, hey, bro, this is what we're going to do right now. You paid to be here and we're going to do this.
Yes.
And at first it's a little like, okay, I'm here, we're doing this. And then they just show you one little piece at a time, right? You chunk it down. In my NLP training, you chunk it down. You don't eat the whole elephant, you chunk it down.
That's right.
And so it's just one piece at a time. And then, okay, we're going to do the X move. And then we're going to do this. And then we're going to do this move where you go like this and you go like that. And then by the end of it, they're like, go up on stage. You got this.
You
And I
on
was
stage?
like, okay, now you're pushing me really outside of my
Like,
envelope.
wait a minute.
I'm like, no, you can let them do that. I'm going to stay here with my wife. But I got you. But it's like it's incumbent on us. I helped this one lady, Barbara, I helped her build a podcast. She didn't know she could do that. We helped her put a book online. Like there's stuff where it was just like step 1, then 2, then 3. She's on podcast 83 as of yesterday. And this all happened within a year and a half. So it's like if they can teach us how to experience Rasta music, then we can teach them how to AI, put a business online. So yeah,
absolutely.
this is it. This is our time.
That's exactly it, Chad. And I would, just for the benefit of those that are watching and listening to us, please take that to heart. My mind goes back to a conversation that happened in my circles maybe a month or so ago. It was someone that was working in the trades and they were like, well, I don't think I really need AI. Right. So that's how the conversation started. And then as the conversation evolved, they started to warm up to it a little bit. And by the end of the conversation, they had downloaded ChatGPT. And I think that's what needs to happen, to your point, Chad, is all of us that know it, have a comfort level with it, recognize the power of it. Let's start having conversations to make sure that everyone at least download it and see, right? Because what we don't want to happen is for some people to think, oh, I don't really need it. It doesn't matter for me. And then they miss out on all the benefits that it has to offer. And then one of the things that I think about, one of the reasons that I wanted to be a part of Lead Reviver is I don't want to wake up in a world one day where I'm completely lost, right? I mean, can you imagine if you don't take the time to actually get your mind around AI? It might not be that long. It could be 3 years from now and you literally don't know how other people are operating because you've never taken the time to download an app and spend a few minutes figuring out how it works. So you're right. It's kind of that each one teach one. So I want to encourage those that are watching us and listening to us, please don't let your family, don't let your friends, don't let your coworkers fall behind.
Yeah, plant a tree.
Yeah, plant a tree. That's right. That's right.
That's right. Well, hey, we ventured off the path as I warned you we would.
We knew we were. We knew that before you hit record, Chad. We already knew that.
We knew we would when I read your